Hey there, Goa fans. This is Mark, DJ Solitaire, here with episode 129 of Retro Goa Explorations, my weekly series in which I present in each episode one of my favorite tracks from the 1990s Goa Trance psychedelic dance movement. So here we are with a track that has a bit of an interesting timeline in terms of when it was produced, when I got it, when it was actually publicly released, and all that jazz. And I think it's a little bit of an underappreciated one by one of the all time favorites and masters of the scene because it's a remix. And I remember when I got this particular one. So I was leaving London in February 1998 to go back to Canada for a few weeks before moving back to Japan. And one of my Japanese friends, who I knew from certainly probably 95, early on in 95, might have been later in 94. So from the first parties I was going to, Kunichi, who we called Kun, he was very well connected with everybody in the scene. And he spent some time in London as well, and he was back and forth. And he's become a bit of a TV and a movie star, in fact, in the time since. And very, very dedicated to the scene at the time and was at a lot of events and really knew his stuff. And I remember that we arranged to get together. It seems like he was visiting London at the time and was staying in this hotel, and he invited me over for a dance session. He's like, come on over. I have some music I could give you. And I mean, one of the gems he gave me was a complete DAT of Coxbox Live at Burning Man, which was supposed to be coming out and which didn't. So that ended up being quite a nice little gift that he gave me. And I have this DAT that I remember is labeled Kunichi's Selection. And I mean, they were all killers. And there was this one on here, uh, a Killing Joke remix by Hallucinogen called Jana, Jana. So Killing Joke was a band that youth who founded Dragonfly, who was running Butterfly Records, on which on which Killing Joke music was released. That was his band, and a whole bunch of trance artists did a heck of a lot of trance remixes once youth got fully immersed into the Goa scene. I mean, very deeply and fully. It's definitely where his heart is. And so Kuhn had this, like, he's like, oh, I've got this great hallucinogen track. And I listened to it and I was like, oh my God, this is like the most amazing track ever. And then there was this massive glitch in the middle of the piece. The challenge with those digital tapes is sometimes there would be some magnetic interference or issues with the tape, either from the original one or from the one, when you copied it. And the case was his had this kind of really nasty noise that came over just at this really gorgeous part. And we didn't have computers for editing or anything those days, so I wasn't able to play it. So I was very disappointed. It was only later in 98, and I'm not sure when because I didn't get a copy myself, that Dragonfly came out with a compilation of Killing Joke remixes on a CD that was called War Dance, even though that wasn't the name of any of the tracks on there. But just fantastic remixes by UX and Deidre and Hallucinogen and all kinds of great, great artists. It's really fantastic stuff. So, but I've just been doing a bit of digging for this episode. And it turns out that in 1994, there was a CD release of the original, I think, Jana track and a couple of remixes. And it includes this one. But it was 1994. Now, a couple of the live tracks on there were recorded October 19th, 1994, which means if it came out in 1994, it was pretty late in the year. Now, when the Hallucinogen one got made, is a good question because it's actually not called the Hallucinogen remix. It's called the Dragonfly mix or Dragonfly remix. So remember, Simon Gosford, aka Hallucinogen, the hallucinogenius, was working at Dragonfly as an engineer. And it was only when his LSD track came out that year on vinyl that he had come up with the name Hallucinogen for his project in about 30 minutes. They said, "We have the white label ready to go. You need a project name." Okay, well, the track is called LSD. Let's call my project Hallucinogen. To which he later added, if I knew I was going to get that much use out of the name, I would have thought about it a bit more carefully. Of course, it sticks and it's wonderful. But so in any case, even though the name Hallucinogen had been chosen by October, 94, when some of these other tracks were recorded live and then plunked onto this CD, it may be that it was just on the DAT already as Dragonfly Mix, or, they just chose to give it that name and sort of the memo didn't come through that he was now called Hallucinogen. So, interestingly, on the War Dance CD, this one of the other tracks says Hallucinogen Mix or Hallucinogen Remix, but this one just says hallucinogenic afterwards. I don't know why. In any case, it's Simon Posford at, I think, some of his most inspired. Now, some of the sounds here remind me of the Lazy Spiral mix of Lunar Juice, which he did, I believe, surprisingly, later in 93. It really sounds more advanced than that, but it's 93 heading into 94. So somewhere in there, I know that the Wizard, Slinky Wizard, Wizard track, and that long 25-minute mix of that one, those were done in, I think it's December 93, which is, for me is unbelievable considering how much ahead of everything else it was. But this one, in any case, is in the 93 to 94 window, probably, that first stretch to middle stretch of 94. And then, these other ones were quickly put onto that first CD, which I never saw. So I don't know when I got the complete version. I just remember being very annoyed that, Kunichi was so gracious and gave me such amazing tracks. And this is the one that I really wanted to play. And it was like, oh my God, it's real Hallucinogen fan. And then I get this and it's got this, really loud, aggravating noise in there for, 2 or 3 seconds. So I was like, oh, there's just no way around it. In any case, now we've got it. It's all digital. It's all wonderful. And we can appreciate, of course, the hallucinogenius with this absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous track. Now, there is some of the original vocal in there. And I could never figure out what the guy was saying or screaming pretty much, right? It's a little bit sort of, grunge singing. But thanks to this thing called the internet that we have now, that we didn't have then, I looked up the lyrics. And there's a few different possibilities because we hear him say something 4 times in sequence. And it's interesting. It could be, as it is in the vocals, that there's 4 different options that sound similar, or Simon might have chosen one. I actually really can't tell when I listen. So in the lyrics, in the first chorus, we hear there's Jana's cry, then Jana's sigh, then Jana's mind, and then Jana died. In the second chorus, there's Jana tried, Jana's sigh, Jana's mind, and then Jana died. So I don't know if he's just repeating the same one 4 times, or if Simon chose one of those choruses, cut off the other words that are after those, and then just use those. But get to listen and see what you notice. But there's all this other amazing stuff to capture our attention, of course, with that minor third interval that's so beautifully done. And really that bounce that was a hallmark of hallucinogen tracks at the time, this really rubbery kind of sound and some really beautiful mystical harmonies and just this climactic buildup where everything seems to be going off all at once. So let's give this one a listen without any glitches and Well, see what you think. Here is the Hallucinogen remix of Jana by Killing Joke. So there's this cool little, this perfect thing for DAT mixing, right? This lead in, and it's going to be quite sudden when things kick in. And I love the rhythm of that one note bass line. There's other voices coming in. There's some real voices there, and then just beautiful, clear, crystalline, kind of rubbery bass line. Wonderful use of the kick. And that slightly gnarly sound that's in there. So it's like got this grunge-like quality, but it's also really elegant. And then that cool little pitch shift. It's a minor second, if I'm hearing that correctly. And then this is where we get some of those gorgeous hallucinogen figurations. And then this beautiful distortion here. And then quite early on to have this level of mayhem that it goes a little bit wilder later on. There's some more mid-range stuff going on as well that's really beautiful. Just love the mantra-like effect of that rubbery bass line while all this other stuff comes and goes. A creative break lets the dancer catch their breath. And then this. Just get the voice, some creaky noises. We'd be hearing a lot more of that in future Hallucinogen productions. Those little interjections that just show up in the background. Classic Hallucinogen at this period. It really becomes really quite circular, but for me it seems to really ascend, and it just really has this almost like building a pyramid kind of quality. So those intervals. Did I get the voice coming back? Another one. And I think it's on the next break we're going to get some more Eastern sounding harmonies. Great use of the kick there, and here we are. Just so beautifully aerated, right? I mean, really, the textures are incredibly clear here. And then that voice. Incredible engineering and layering, just to think that this was done in '94. Forward with the kick, and then just love how it still has that kind of gnarly quality to it. Some of that mid to low range stuff. And we start building up to a bigger climax now. Right, so just everything was just going off all at once. I think this is the last round before things start unwinding. But there we go, main kick drops out. Some cool noodling going on there. And then it's a pretty creative and clever ending here. I mean, it amazes me when I go out to hear occasionally, some big techno DJ or somebody, and the crowd loses it when the hi-hats come in. It's like, oh my God, one extra sound got added. You're listening to this, where it's like this cosmic symphony of complex patterns that all work together seamlessly, and you can track all of them at the same time. I mean, there's something to be said maybe for that other kind of music, and how less can be more. But I mean, really, sometimes more is more, and this is more, and it's definitely more. I mean, this is just really astounding. And it's literally just now, before filming, that I discovered that this was actually done by 1994. So absolutely jaw-dropping. The quality of the production, the musical structure, the synthesizer sounds, the all of the different patterns, and the way, again, that we hear them through the engineering all at the same time, that musically they all fit together. There's never any clash. Really, absolutely incredible. So I always think of Kunichi and that sort of little visit to the hotel room, sort of us with the two DAC players on the bed, and sort of going through his unbelievable DAC collection. And I still have the original one that he gave me so graciously of the that Cox box live at Burning Man. And then this one just being that sort of creme de la creme that was unfortunately marred digitally, and which I got probably at some point later that year since the CD came out. I never got that CD. I had most of the tracks on it that I got given somehow, but I'm gonna probably need to track that down for myself just for the archive. In any case, a real beauty. I am going to sign off here so we can listen to the whole thing without my commentary and appreciate its musical and sonic splendor. I'm Mark DJ Solitaire, wrapping up episode 129 of Retro Goa Explorations, and leaving you now with the remix of Killing Joke's Jana by Hallucinogen.